Aribo, Salika, Prabhu, you're welcome for today's class. Please unmute yourself. Prabhu, unmute yourself, please.
Hare Krishna.
Please, you can start the class. I hope you have Bhagavatam. I can be able to share on screen.
Okay, no problem, Prabhu.
Okay. Please, you can start, please. Thank you.
Okay. Just a minute. Hare Krishna. Om Agyanatmirandasya Gyanam Shalakaya Chakshumilitam Dena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Hare Krishna devotees. Hare Krishna devotees. Can everyone hear me?
We are hearing you, Prabhu.
Okay, so let's start. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. So we're reading this morning, Srimad Bhagavatam, First Canto, Chapter 7, text number 35 and 36. So, now tradition, I'll read the Sanskrit text, the word-for-word translation, and translation of Srila Prabhupada and purport, and then we can continue from there. Mainam parta asitratum Brahma bandum imajahi Yusuf anagasa suptam Avadim nisibalakam. Word for word translation. Mam enam, never unto him. Parata o Arjun. Arhasi auto. Tractum, give release. Brahma bandum, a relative of a Brahmana. Imam in. Jahi, kill. Ya-i, who as. Asahau, those. Anagasa, faultless. Sultan, while sleeping. Avadit, killed. Nisi, at night. Balakan, the boys. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Sri Krishna said, O Arjun, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmana. Brahma Bandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Brahma Bandhu is significant. A person who happens to take birth in the family of a Brahmana but is not qualified to be called a Brahmana is addressed as the relative of a Brahmana and not as a Brahmana. The son of a high court judge is not virtually a high court judge. But there is no harm in addressing a high court judge's son as a relative of the honorable justice. Therefore, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. As the high court judgeship is a post for the qualified man, so also the post of a Brahmana is attainable by qualification only. The Shastra enjoins that if good qualification are seen in a person born in a family other than that of a Brahmana, the qualified man has to be accepted as a Brahmana. And similarly, if a person born in the family of a Brahmana is void of a Brahmanical qualification, then he must be treated as a non-Brahmana, or in better terms, a relative of a Brahmana. Lord Sri Krishna, the supreme personality of God, the supreme authority of all religious principles, the Vedas, has personally pointed out these differences and is about to explain the reason for this in the following slokas. So I think this is why the host has requested that we should read both 36, 5 and 36, because the last sentence in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has referred to the next text. So we'll read it. I will not read the word-for-word translation so that we can save time, but I'll read the text of the 36th verse, and then I'll go on to the translation of 36 and the purport. So the text of 1 Canto chapter 7, text number 36, read thus. Matam pramatam umatam soptam balam striyam jagat jadam prapanam viratam vitam naripum antidharmavit. Translation: a person who knows the principles of religion does not kill. An enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid or devoid of his chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. An enemy who does not resist is never killed by a warrior who knows the principles of religion. Formerly, battles were fought on the principles of religion and not for the sake of sense gratification. If the enemy happens to be intoxicated, asleep, etc., as above mentioned, he was never to be killed. These are some of the codes of religious war. Formerly, war was never declared by the whims of selfish political leaders. It was carried out on religious principles, free from all vices. Violence carried out on religious principles is far superior to so-called non-violence. Om Agyanam Timirandasya Gyanagyanam Chalakaya Chakcho Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamayam Dadati Swam Pada Antikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namaostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangira Devindavaneshwari. Vishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamamin Aripiye. Mokankaroti Bachalam Pangam Lagayate Girim Yat Kripadam Bande Sri Guru Dinatarinam. Vancha Karpataru Vyascha Kripa Sundubhyas Ivascha. Patitanam Pavashnavebhyo Vaishnavavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srinivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So we welcome all of the devotees, assembled devotees to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Before starting to discuss this two verses, I want to first of all offer my respectful obeisances unto the previous acharyas. First unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who is the Supreme Guru, Supreme Author. My obeisances unto the previous acharyas and the present acharyas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the all Vaishnava devotees who are assembled here in this class this morning. I pray that at the end of this class, each and every one of us will benefit by the causeless mercy of the Lord, because the purpose of hearing and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam is for one to be able to become a beneficiary of the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I pray that at the end of this class, both myself, who has been appointed to speak on behalf of the acharyas, and those of us that will be listening, will be immensely blessed by the purpose behind this Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we're reading a continued discussions selected from Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, chapter 7, text number 35 and 36. The text number 35 and 36 are chosen both because of the connection of the two verses, even though traditionally we will read only the second or the third verses if the particular verse of the day is not having a purport. But in this case, the two verses we're reading today both carries purport of Srila Prabhupada. And that makes it a very elaborate topics to be discussed, because Srila Prabhupada has embedded in those two purports a lot of realization. But in the course of learning or studying the Srimad Bhagavatam and any other scriptures, there are always three ways of understanding the particular subject matter. The first is the moral codes that are embedded in whatever scriptural text that we read. There are always some moral lessons to be learned. But beyond the moral lesson, which is what is available to those who are on the material platform of religion, their perception of scriptures means to learn moral codes. But beyond that level are those who are opportune to be able to go beyond that level of moral understanding, just the moral understanding of the scriptural text, which is the philosophical aspect or the Jnani aspect or the level of understanding the philosophy behind the text that is being read or heard. And most importantly, beyond that level of philosophical understanding is the transcendental level of realization of any text that is being read in any circumstances. And when we say transcendence, transcendence can be divided into three parts. Transcendence could be the platform of Brahman realization, the platform of impersonal realization of God, or the purpose or the purport of the text. So the Acharyas have explained to us that there are three levels of God realization, or the words of God, or the pastimes of God, or the activities of God. So the first level of transcendence is when one perceive, understand the activities of the Lord, the topics about the Lord, is knowledge on the impersonal Brahman platform. But beyond that level of transcendence is to come to the platform of Paramatma realization of the particular text or understanding of the scripture. At that Paramatma level, one can go deeper, higher than the impersonal level of realization or understanding of the text. And when one goes beyond that, it can come to the highest level of Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, sorry, which is the platform of the Bhagavan realization. The Srimad Bhagavatam, from the beginning of the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam, all other level of realization has been put aside to establish the platform of discussions on the Bhagavatam level to be on that zenith, the topmost platform of God realization, which is Krishna consciousness, the part of Bhakti Yoga. So today, we will briefly talk about the moral aspect of this verse that we are reading, because there are so many moral lessons that are to be learned in this two texts. And there are some philosophical understanding, knowledge to be captured. And beyond that is the transcendental aspect, because the section we are reading in Srimad Bhagavatam this morning is relating to the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Personality of God. If we remember very clearly from the previous chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, this first canto, as we start from the first chapter, the preceding to this verse, to this chapter of the Bhagavatam, where we start hearing the narration about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has established the basis, the foundation for the discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is mainly, ultimately, based on understanding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what are the moral codes? What are the moral lessons to be learned in this verse? Let us look at the verse. Lord Krishna is saying, it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead that is speaking here. And Prabhupada in the purport emphasizes so much in the first verse that we are reading, verse 35. Srila Prabhupada was speaking mostly on the moral lessons to be learned in the verse. Krishna says that talking to Arjuna, that Arjuna should not have mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmana or a Brahma Bandhu, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. And there are two moral lessons to be learned here. One is that immoral act of Ashwatthama, which is the subject here, and the code of morality. And Prabhupada is talking about the code of morality. To establish morality, there must be rules and regulations. And as it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavad Pranitam, the principles of moral code or religiosity is only enunciated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, in the chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 13, Lord Krishna, he establishes the moral codes that establishes one to be a Brahmin. Shato Vanyam Maya Shistam, Guna Karma Vibhagasa, Tasya Kartaham Api Maham, Vidi Akartaram, Avyayam. That what? According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by him, God only, as it is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna is confirming that in the Bhagavad Gita here, that the first divisions of human society, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and the Sudras, Krishna says the divisions for orderliness in the human activities, excuse me, are created by him. So the Lord is the enunciator, is the creator, is the foundation of all moral codes of conduct. And talking about a Brahmana here, Ashwatthama, although was trained and initiated as a Brahmin, but is described here as a non-Brahmana because it does not possess the qualification of a Brahmana. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned in the purport very clearly that if somebody is born in the purport, Prabhupada said, therefore, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright. Ashwatthama was giving birth to a very highly elevated Brahmin in the person of Drona Acharya, a very powerful Brahmin, Sisha, Guru. So, but such a powerful Brahmana son, Ashwatthama, by birth, is supposed to be a very qualified person. But although he was supposed to be, he is not, because he does not possess the qualification of a Brahmana. So when one acts in a particular way, like I said, there are two aspects of the moral code of knowledge in this verse. The first aspect is that there's standard of moral code for a Brahmana. A Brahmana is one who possesses, according to Lord Krishna, in the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Samo Dharma Stapa Saucham, Chanti Al Javam Eva Cha, Gyanam Vietnam Astikyam, Brahma Karma Swabhava Jam. Lord Krishna, he explained the peaceful, the qualification of a Brahmana: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. Lord Krishna said, these 12 qualities are the natural qualities by which a Brahmana is supposed to be known. This is the qualities that makes a Brahmana. This is the qualities on the platform which a Brahmana operates. But Ashwatthama, who is the subject here, has not exhibited any of this qualification. So therefore, Lord Krishna in this text we're reading is describing him as what is technically known as Brahma Bandhu in Vedic language, or a relative of a Brahmana. So in other words, if somebody is acting in a particular way and does not possess that qualification, he's called a relative, as explained in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. So Ashwatthama was supposed to be a Brahmin, but he was not qualified. And we can see this in the antecedent and the precedence of what happened in the life of Ashwatthama. Let us look at the storyline or the precedence. Precedence means what happened before Ashwatthama acquired the power in which he misused here. That is the basis for Lord Krishna stating this statement. Ashwatthama, like we said, is the son of Dronacharya, who is a powerful teacher. But incidentally, both Ashwatthama and Arjuna, who is the captor now, are both students of Dronacharya. And in their student days, Ashwatthama exhibits no qualification to be empowered, to be endowed with such a powerful instrument like the ones that he used in executing these irreligious activities. So therefore, one will wonder, why did Dronacharya give to him in their student life? Because Arjuna was an exceptional student, Dronacharya bestowed upon him so many powers, and inclusive of those powers is the Brahmastra that he gave to Arjuna. But when he gave that to Arjuna, Ashwatthama, being the son of Dronacharya, started questioning his father. In the Mahabharata, this story is like elaborated and delineated. So in that story, Ashwatthama started pestering his father out of what? Envy, which is not a qualification of a Brahmin. Ashwatthama started exhibiting quality of a lusty person. And he was, although he was not qualified to carry Brahmastra or any power for that purpose. He kept on pestering his father. And in the story in the Mahabharata, it was explained, Dronacharya, when he was to give this power of Brahmastra and other weapons to Ashwatthama, he told him very clearly, he said, my dear son, this Brahmastra and other weapons I'm giving to you, you are in no way qualified to have them. You are not in any way qualified because you do not possess that qualification, but because you are my son. This is another moral code. Dronacharya, this is one of the reasons why Dronacharya eventually was killed in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Because Dronacharya, although he was a powerful, knowledgeable teacher, he knows that power should not be bestowed upon one who is not qualified. Dronacharya, out of emotional consideration of Ashwatthama being his son, he bestowed upon him those powers. But although he told him, he said, my dear Drona, my dear Ashwatthama, in no way you are qualified for these powers. But because you're my son, and because you are pestering me, and as a father, I felt like giving to you, but I'm warning you. I'm giving you a serious warning. What is the warning given by Dronacharya? He said, this weapon should never be used on a human being for any reason. That was the statement of Dronacharya to Ashwatthama. I said, apart from that, even at the celestial level, that power should not be, the Brahmastra power should never be used unless it is absolutely necessary. And even when you are in a disadvantaged situation, it should never be used in a battle with another human being. But Dronacharya, because he was not qualified. So that is what we see in our modern day world. Our political leaders, our government leaders, our religious leaders, because they do not possess the qualification of being on that seat. That is why we see so much of chaos in the world today. Even in our religious settings, we see that things get upside down. Sometimes we wonder, why did things get upside down like this? Because people who assume the power, people who assume the position are never qualified in the first place. And because they're not qualified, they have been given the position, and position is a powerful thing, tool. They misbehave, and the world is in the turmoil that it is today. So Dronacharya was not qualified. Another disqualification of Ashwatthama was that another story prior to these activities of Ashwatthama. In the Mahabharata, it was narrated, Ashwatthama, immediately after he was given this power, to show that Ashwatthama was not qualified in any case. Ashwatthama, when he was given this power, he was so, just like somebody who is not qualified to be given the position becomes pompous. He was so pompous. And what did Ashwatthama do? In his trying to exhibit his power, he went to Dwarka to meet Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he told Lord Krishna, according to the story as narrated in this Mahabharata, he explained to Lord Krishna how he has been given the Brahmastra powers by his father. And he said, therefore, because his father has been so kind and given him such a power, he wants Lord Krishna also to give him his chakra, Sudarshan chakra. And Lord Krishna laughed sarcastically. But to teach him a lesson, Lord Krishna said, oh, you want me to give you my chakra, the Sudarshan chakra? Ashwatthama was, because he already has a powerful tool in his hand, that which is the nature of one who is unqualified. His intention was hidden, but externally he was telling Lord Krishna, my father has given me this Brahmastra, please give me your Sudarshan chakra. And Lord Krishna told him, I have so many weapons in which I use. I have the conch, I have the club, I have my powerful other weapons. Inclusive of them is this Sudarshan chakra. But because you have asked, and I said, Brahmana, I will give you, but I want to instruct you before you ask for this Sudarshan chakra of mine. I want you to think again. I've mentioned all of other my weapons that I have. Why don't you choose again? I want to assume that I have not had your request. But because Ashwatthama is foolish. He went further. He said, Lord Krishna, all I wanted is your Sudarshan chakra. And Krishna said, okay, that is what you want. Take it. But when you gave to him, Ashwatthama could not lift it. He could not even move it an inch. And he was struggling. He used all of the powers he has, but he could not lift the Sudarshan chakra of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because he could not lift it, he struggled for so time. After so much of struggle, he relented and told the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna, my dear Lord Krishna, yes, this is your Sudarshan chakra. I could not lift it. And I cannot understand why I'm not able to lift it. And Lord Krishna explained the glories of his Sudarshan chakra, that even my brother, Balaram, who is directly my expansion, who is not different from me, will never ask for my Sudarshan chakra, not to talk of Arjuna, who is my friend, or any of my devotees, or neither the host of the demigods. None of them would dare ask for this Sudarshan chakra of mine because of your foolishness. Because in the first place, you are intoxicated by the power which is given to you, which you are not qualified to. That is the only reason why you could ask for this. So in all ramification, Ashwatthama was never qualified to have the Brahmana in the first place. So it is dangerous to empower someone who is not qualified. In the Vedic age, people are empowered and given positions and are given based on qualification. And there are so many other moral codes or lessons to be learned in the verse. And furthermore, on the religious platform, as stated in the second verse, Srila Prabhupada's purport, in the course of fighting, in the course of war, there are moral codes. And one should not, according to military science, exhibit a particular weapon or use it in a particular way. But Ashwatthama, because he has no qualification in the first place, as we explained, he has no consideration. So therefore, Lord Krishna here is talking. He should not have reconsidered for forgiveness. But then that takes us to the philosophical aspect of this test. The personality talking here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the teacher of all moral codes of knowledge, is requesting somebody to take revenge. According to moral standard, according to religious principles, the lesson is that one should never consider, talk less of avenging what a crime that can be done unto him. But here, the teacher of all religiosity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, here is instructing Arjuna to do what? To take revenge the death of the Pandavas' children. And this is very interesting because when we understand, when we think about God, and that is why one who is not philosophically sound cannot understand, cannot come by any reason to the platform of understanding the narrations, the pastimes, the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This statement of the Lord here cannot be understood, cannot be appreciated unless one has come to the platform of knowledge. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is explained in the 13th chapter that what constitutes knowledge? The knowledge of oneself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the activities between both of them. Anything outside of these three basic understanding is ignorance. That is the statement of Lord Krishna to Arjuna. So for one to understand why the Supreme Personality of Godhead is talking here, what he is talking, one has to understand who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One has to be able to be grounded on the platform of philosophical understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is inconceivable. For one who is in the conditional state of life, the activities, the pastimes, the narrations of the Lord and his devotees can never be understood. So therefore, it is stated that the Lord is inconceivable. And the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead, must be inconceivable on the to understand. Unless the Supreme Lord is inconceivable, then there will not be reason to call him the Supreme. Because that which can be conceived means that which is logically understood to be right. But our material logical understanding cannot comprehend the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So understand this philosophy. Srila Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas has given a very nice explanation to the inconceivable activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because until one comes to that inconceivable platform, to understand the inconceivable nature and the transcendental nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord's activity cannot be understood. So Srila Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas, he explained very nicely the inconceivable, how one can understand the inconceivable personality of Godhead. And he explained that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and its activities cannot be understood by human logic. What is logic? Logic means that which by our material intelligence, mind, and senses can be understood. That is what is called logical. So if the Lord cannot be understood by logical understanding, then one say that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is illogical? No. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is not illogical, because it can be understood. Logic means that which can be understood by the application of intelligence, mind, and the senses. Illogical means that which cannot stand the scrutiny of our human intelligence understanding. So therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami, he mentioned that the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is translogical. Translogical means that in whose presence logic cannot stand. Srila Jiva Goswami, in this explanation in the Sandarbhas, explained very elaborately, and he gave so many analogies. Logical means that which we can understand by our senses, mind, and intelligence. And if we cannot understand the Lord by these parameters, so how then do we prove that the Lord is not illogical? Translogical means that the Lord is above logical explanations. And to explain this a little further, Srila Jiva Goswami gave a very nice example of the sun and the torchlight. In the night, when we apply our torchlights, we can see within the darkness. But within the day, our torchlight's ability is dissipated because of what? The presence of the sun. For example, if somebody just think, I want to see the sun in the night, it is dark, and he carries the torchlight and he points it to the sky. I want to see the sun. No matter how bright that kind of torchlight is, it cannot reveal the sun in the night once there is a darkness. So therefore, Srila Jiva Goswami said that the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, is like the sun. It cannot be understood by our logic. Our human logic is just like the torchlight. That does not mean that torchlight does not have its influence or use. In the darkness, torchlight is good. It is effective. Just like when there is no presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, logic becomes established basis for understanding. And an example is given. For an example, let us take an example of somebody who is sick, is having a running stomach. Someone is having a running stomach and he goes to the doctor. And the doctor says you're having a stomach upset. To cure your stomach upset, we have to cut your leg. That is illogical. Common sense will tell you that the leg and the stomach are two different parts entirely, and there's no how the stomach pain can be cured by cutting the leg. So it's illogical. And Prabhupada used to give a sarcastic explanation to that in the West. When the Prabhupada is talking about when the philosophers, when the scientists come forward and they try to explain their position as a scientist to understand the Supreme Personality of God, the Krishna and his activities, Prabhupada will tell them, your logic and science cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And there was a nice pastime of Srila Prabhupada. One rascal came forward, and when he met Prabhupada, he said, I am God. And Srila Prabhupada answered very sarcastically immediately. Prabhupada said, I'm the Queen of England. And everybody busted laughter because it is not it's common sense. How can he be the Queen of England? So Prabhupada said to say that I'm God, or to try to understand God, or to claim the position of God, is actually a childish thing. And one of the Vaishnava Acharyas, he explained that unless the Lord reveals himself, unless the Lord reveals himself, the Lord cannot be understood. Just like unless the sun manifests his glory by itself at the sunrise, no amount of our torchlight or human logic can understand the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is how one can understand these activities of the Lord here. Because by human logic, by human understanding, no one can understand how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, God, who is all merciful, who is all compassionate, is instructing his disciple to go ahead and commit what is called here, from material perspective, violence. And that is why a mundane person cannot understand the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita 533, Lord Brahma, he explains the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Advaitam Achyutam Anandim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Dulabam Adulabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anandim Anantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Dulabam Adulabam Atma Bhakto Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Lord Brahma is saying, and worship the Supreme Personality of God who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second. Only bhakti, only devotion can understand the activities of the Lord. And to understand this more better, let us look at what the activities of Ashwatthama is before the exhibition of his activities of killing the Pandavas' children. When we recall in the story of the Mahabharata, when during the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Lord Balaram refused to stay there because of his position. But towards the end of the Mahabharata, Lord Balaram came back. And that was exactly the time Duryodhana and Bhima were having their battle, the final battle of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Although before that fight, Lord Krishna has chastised Maharaj Yudhishthira very intently. Why is this chastising him? In the story in the Mahabharata, Lord Krishna told Maharaj Yudhishthira, when after all of the kings have been killed, there is no reason. Because immediately after all of the warriors and the major powerful persons, Bhishma Dev, Dronacharya, and great personalities, Karna, have been killed on the battlefield of Shira, Duryodhana ran away. And when Duryodhana ran away, but Maharaj Yudhishthira said, we will not consider ourselves to be victorious until Duryodhana is dealt with, is punished for all of his activities. So therefore, he has to be brought. And he was challenged. And as a warrior, Duryodhana could not say no. So then the duel between Duryodhana and Bhima started. But then, according to military science expertise, by expertise in military science, Bhimasena by no way is qualified to fight with Duryodhana in the use of military science. Remember, Duryodhana is a student of Lord Balaram himself. So to defeat Duryodhana, Lord Krishna has to play this activity of the Lord. This statement of the Lord started doing that activities and all of the activities in the Mahabharata. Lord Krishna was the one who instructed Bhimasena. Without that, he would not have been able to kill Duryodhana. When Bhimasena and Duryodhana were fighting fiercely, and the battle was seemingly getting in the favor of Duryodhana, Lord Krishna called Arjuna by the side and told him, look, your brother, although he's very powerful, but power without knowledge is nothing. So that is why this Ashwatthama could behave here, because although Ashwatthama was given power, but he has no knowledge. So Lord Krishna told Arjuna, tell your brother, by giving him sign, by military science, as Prabhupada mentioned that in the purport to that text number 36, there are moral code, there are military science principles of fighting. And one of them is that an opposing party should not be kicked below the belt. That is below the waist side. But Lord Krishna told Arjuna, tell your brother, if he wants to win this war, if he wants to kill Duryodhana, he should eat him, which is against the moral code of religiosity. That is the transcendental aspect of understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Lord Krishna told Arjuna gave sign to Bhimasena. And Arjuna hit his thigh, left thigh. And immediately Bhimasena understand. And he hit Duryodhana very heavily, which is against the moral code. And Lord Balaram did not find this funny. In that story in the Mahabharata, immediately that happened, and Duryodhana fall down. Bhimasena did that. Lord Balaram himself took his plow and he was going to kill Bhimasena. Because he said, my dear Bhimasena, this is completely wrong according to the code of military science. You cannot eat an opposing party, no matter what, by eating him below the waist. But then Lord Krishna hold him back. When Lord Krishna hold him back, Lord Krishna pacified his brother. It took a long while before Balaram could be pacified. But because Balaram is Krishna himself, but to teach the principles of code of religion, Lord Balaram exhibited that anger. And Bhimasena was saved by the persuasion of Lord Krishna to Lord Balaram. In this way, Duryodhana was killed. But before Duryodhana died, after the Bhimasena celebrated his victory and all of that, the interesting aspect of the story is that Ashwatthama on his own by no means has the power to kill the Pandavas' children. That is the secret. That is the interesting nectarian part of the story of Ashwatthama killing the sons of the Pandavas. And what happened, according to Mahabharata, is that when Duryodhana was about to die, he called for three persons. He called for Kripa, Kritava, and Ashwatthama, explaining to them how Bhimasena has unshamingly defeated him by using a very heinous way. But Lord Krishna told him, look here, due to your sinful activities, you are talking about morality here, but due to your immorality, you tried to kill Bhimasena by applying poison. You wanted to kill all the Pandavas by putting fire in the house of Lad. So this is not immorality, just like Indra had devised an irreligious act by trick to kill Virochana in the battle between the both. And according to military science, when you're fighting with a superior person, the moral code is that as a weaker person in the battle, you can use a tricky means. But the important aspect of this story, which I'm trying to narrate, is that when Kripa, Ashwatthama, and Kritavama was called by Duryodhana, Duryodhana installed Ashwatthama as his commander-in-chief since he has fallen. And Ashwatthama was thinking of how to finish the Pandavas, because he knew by knowledge that by no means is an equal to Arjuna or being able to kill the Pandavas. So he was thinking, which way can I do this? And there is a story narrated in the Mahabharata that while Ashwatthama was sitting contemplating like this, he noticed in his front, while gazing, he saw thousands of crows sleeping on a branch of a banyan tree. And while he was looking at that scene, then a fierce owl quietly come over there and he slaughtered all of the large numbers of crows that were patiently sleeping. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that what? In the Bhagavad Gita, he said, I give knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So for Ashwatthama to be able to do the activities that is done, he wasn't able to do that by his own power, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead instructed from the heart. Lord Krishna, remember in Bhagavad Gita chapter 11, text number 32 to 34, Lord Krishna has told Arjuna that all of the warriors on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, both on the Pandava side and the Kaurava fight, has already been killed by him. So the important aspect, the nourishing, the nectarian aspect of the story of Ashwatthama is that all of these activities were orchestrated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because he is to be satisfied in all activities. Bhaktaram yajna tapasam sarvaloke maheshwaram. Unless the Lord is pleased, no moral codes can stand test of any scrutiny. So when Ashwatthama saw this whole killing the crows that were sleeping patiently in sleep, remembrance came to him, and he started thinking, oh, it is night. Just like this owl have killed all of this crow, I shall also kill the Pandavas. But then he went to the Pandavas camp. And when he got there, the story is a very long story, but I'm going to cut that aspect of the story short because time is far spent. Ashwatthama, when he got to the camp of the Pandavas, he could not enter there because there was a gigantic, powerful army standing in the front. It's considered to be an unusual personality that was standing there, kept to guide the Pandavas, because you can imagine the Pandavas to be completely careless. There was a powerful guard at the gate, and Ashwatthama tried everything to kill this personality, but he couldn't kill him. So Ashwatthama, according to Mahabharata, went when he realized that he has used all of his powers and all of his endeavors to kill this personality that was guiding the Pandavas' children and all of the Panchalas. Ashwatthama is a devotee of Lord Shiva. He went to Lord Shiva and he prayed. According to Mahabharata, the story is narrated. Ashwatthama had to go to Lord Shiva, and when he met Lord Shiva, after praying supplications and praying very fervently, Lord Shiva appeared to Ashwatthama and asked him, what does he want? Ashwatthama explained his heinous intention. I want to kill all of the Pandavas while they are sleeping. And Lord Shiva, as we know, is a Param Vaishnava. And because it's a direct power incarnation of the Lord, he knows the activity, he knows the desire of the Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So according to that story, it was narrated, Lord Shiva was the one that gave benediction to Ashwatthama. But he didn't just give. Before giving that benediction, ability to be able to defeat the personality that was standing at the gate of the Pandavas, Lord Shiva told Ashwatthama, say, my dear Ashwatthama, even if I, not just giving you benediction, go with you to that gate, if it is not for the pleasure of the Lord, if the Lord is not to be pleased, we will not be able to defeat that personality that is standing at the gate of the Pandavas. But because I am aware, because by dint of my devotion to the Supreme Personality of God, I have the knowledge that the Lord's desire was to slaughter, just as he has mentioned in that verse I quoted in the Bhagavad Gita, that he has already killed everyone. Arjuna should just take glory. But here also, Ashwatthama is being used. So Lord Shiva told Ashwatthama, he said, but because I know it is the desire of the Lord that all of these warriors should be killed, I'm going to give you my benediction. And it is recorded that Lord Shiva gave him the sword in which Ashwatthama used was given by Lord Shiva. But he didn't stop there. Lord Shiva himself entered, according to Mahabharata, entered into Ashwatthama. Only at that moment was Ashwatthama able to defeat the guard that was standing at the entrance of the Panchala camp and the Pandavas. And he was able to do all of those activities. So this is the scenario behind. In essence, what this means is that the whole of the activities of Ashwatthama, from the moral code of conduct, from the philosophical understanding, one has to be able to come to the transcendental aspect on the Bhakti platform to understand. Otherwise, these activities of the Lord will not be understood. As is stated in the earlier part of this Srimad Bhagavatam, in this Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, chapter 2, text number 13. It was said, Atapumbi Dujastre stars, Vanashrama Vibhagasa, Swanostasia Dharmasya Samsidi, Arito Oshana. The ultimate goal of all activities is meant to please Ari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Ashwatthama's activities, and all of the activities that happened on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, was the pastimes of the Lord. Because unless the Lord sanctions it, one cannot engage in any activities. And that is why, even though the Lord is seemingly instructing violence activities here, it is pleasing to the devotees, it is nourishing to the earrings of devotees, it is pleasurable to the devotees, because ultimately, the devotees knows that these are the activities of the Lord, making everything happen. In that same chapter 2 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, so therefore, this Governor has mentioned that for one who is actually wanting to be a devotee, he must, by his activities, Kamasya Dendriya Pritri, Labo Dvita Diata Yavata, Divasya Tattva Jinas, Nato Yas Cheha Karma Bi, that one's life desire should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. So the ultimate goal of human life is what? Ultimately, to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever activities that is deviated from pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead will lead into frustration, will lead into destruction, will lead into anxiety. So the ultimate lesson in these verses that we're reading, it is actually an elaborate verses. But like I said from the beginning, to summarize, the moral code is that power should never be given to one who is not qualified. Otherwise, power intoxicates. And in the verse 36, there was a word there, pramata, madness is what arises when an unqualified person is endowed with a power that is not qualified. That is the moral understanding. Philosophically, the Supreme Personality of God cannot be understood. The activity is activities, as he's stating here, cannot be understood unless one who has come to that platform. And unless one how to come to that platform, there's a nice analogy that the elephant, even for an adult, cannot be, the head of an elephant cannot be touched. But if the elephant decides to sit and bow down his head, even a 3-year-old baby can touch the head of an elephant. There was an analogy given by one of Vaishnava Acharya. So the Lord, when one understands the Lord, then the activities of the Lord as stated in these two verses then can be understood on the transcendental platform. And then one can nourish the sweetness, the pastimes of the Lord as it is meant to achieve in this narration, which Sukadev Goswami is narrating here in this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. I will want to stop here, even though these verses, like I said, even one of the verses, 3 hours is not enough. 3 days, 3 years is not enough to explain one verse of these verses, not to talk less of the two. So I will leave it at this point and an open room for question and answer, so that devotees can also ask questions or make contributions. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, okay. You can go ahead, Judge Amega. I think Kusha Prabhu has to go somewhere, so he has made me the host at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for your wonderful and elaborating topic as for lecture. My question, I have 2 questions for you. Right from the onset, you made mention that a person who knows the religious principle does not kill a woman. In our today's dispensation, we see a woman who serves in the military, the police forces, and talk of other forces. Situation whereby I'm a male on the battlefield, I have an encounter with a female military personnel, whereby if I don't kill her, she will kill me. Am I allowed? That's my first question.
Nice question.
I hope you understand my question is very clear.
I do understand perfectly your question. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's my first question. I have 2 questions.
Okay, let's take it one by one so that we can digest it.
Okay. Yeah.
Self-defense is the first principles of human existence. That you should understand.
Yeah.
But first and foremost, we should understand that in Kali Yuga, everything is upside down.
Yeah.
Like I explained from the beginning of the class, Lord Krishna says, the Lord has divided the society into 4 classes. You understand? And if this arrangement of the Lord is followed, the anomalies that we have in our present age wouldn't be there. You see in the story of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Mahabharata. Yes, there are very powerful historical women fighters. But in the Vedic age, the Kshatriyas are strictly men. Women are not given that role, because by human nature, every creation of God has its primary purpose in creation. God has created each and every living entity for their own purpose. So the woman has his role in creation, man has their own roles in creation. But unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, everything is upside down. Because why? We do not have the Raja Rishis. In the ancient time, the kings are Raja Rishis. They are qualified. So when they assume the leadership role, they guide the society accordingly. But in Kali Yuga, people are completely, as it is said, everybody is a Shudra. So everything is upside down. So in a military war, if you won't find yourself as a military personnel in the course of duty, and you find a female personnel in the opposing party and is ready to kill, because you have a duty to defend yourself, to protect yourself, you could protect yourself. And in the Vedic age also, you should understand, killing an opponent necessarily does not mean killing the person's body. As in the case of Ashutama, ordinarily, because Asotoma due to be killed, he will have been slaughtered. But because in that age, there is knowledge that even a person can be killed by removing the honor of that person. So Asotoma was not physically killed. So in the same way, if you are a military guy and you find yourself in such a situation and you have an upper power, the first thing to do is to disarm the opponent and make him submit himself or herself to you, whether it's a man or a woman. But if the person is not, then it's okay, no problem. You to protect yourself, you have to kill. I hope you understand. Hare Krishna. Can you still hear me? Is George Amiga there? Hare Krishna.
I'm back now.
I can't hear you, George. Can you repeat what you just said?
Yeah, Prabhu, I can hear you now. Network frustration. I'm back.
Okay. But at what point did you hear me last?
Back now. Can you hear me now, Prabhu?
Yes, I can hear you, but how far did you
No,
hear me?
when you just
What was
started
the last word you heard from me?
answering, that is where a call came in and the network,
We'll mix up the network.
Okay.
Okay. What I explained is summary.
You are just narrating some scenario, then all of a sudden, yes. You are talking about self-defense. Yeah, it's the first listen. That's what you said. That's what I heard then.
Okay. I said the first principles of livelihood is self-defense. In the face of danger, when your life is threatened, the first principle is to defend yourself. It's a natural instinct. So if somebody is ready to kill you, and you have the ability to kill the person before he kills you, that is self-defense. But that is not a Vedic standard. The Vedic standard is that if somebody is coming to kill you and you find yourself in a situation whereby the person is not superior to you in strength or power, the standard principle is that you should disarm the person and make him submit him or herself to you. And I gave an explanation, example of Ashwatthama's case.
Okay.
Ashwatthama committed a heinous act. It is not always necessarily to kill the body of the person, because there is knowledge, and based on that knowledge, one can apply principles of non-violence. But like I said earlier, in Kali Yuga, there are no qualifications. Lord Krishna, the social orders and spiritual orders shall be classed. The first social order of life was divided by the Lord himself for regulation, for guidance, for management of human activities and social activities. But because if you're in Kali Yuga, everybody is a Shudra. So there is no moral code of conduct. So everything is ups and down. And that is why in modern times, if you find yourself in such a situation, if you're a military man, if you have the power to disarm the woman, then your duty is to disarm him and not kill his body. If in a situation where you have no ability to do that, then the last resort is to kill, because you have a duty.
Okay. So in the Vedic time, So in the Vedic time, do the women serve in a military setup? In the Vedic time, I mean. Prabhu, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Prabhu? Yeah, I say in
Yeah, your
the
network is not very
days of the
strong.
Vedas, does women serve in the military outset? Do they serve in the military? Okay, let me try. Let me try the network. So can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, but
can you hear
the
me now?
network is breaking. But I think you are trying to say that in the
network
Vedic
okay
times,
now?
are there female is that your question?
What I was asking, in the days of the Vedic, does the women serve in the military? Do they serve as a satirist? Let me ask it this way.
In the
Vedic times, do they serve as a satirist?
There are women born into Kshatriya family, but in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, of all the people that you find as the warriors there was no one mention of one woman, except for Chikandi, who also is in a male body, but actually he was a female in his previous life. So according to Vedic standard, the Kshatriyas are male because this is the role. I explained that earlier. Okay, because you didn't hear. In the Vedic times, there is knowledge, and every society, the society is divided, like I said, and man, woman are not just whimsically created. They are created to serve a role in the creation, in the administration of human activities. So the women role are not that of a military. The women are not. But there are exceptional women who are military arts, who are interested in military arts based on some of their previous activities or karma. They develop attraction and passion for it. It is not that it is disallowed.
Okay. The network is down, so I have to turn off my video so that you can hear me well.
It's okay, no problem. You're welcome. So if you have any other question or comments? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, that's just a follow-up. My second question has to do with the main mention of you're supposed to you have moral lesson, philosophical, and the transcendental. My question is, out of these three, if I act on the moral platform, Prabhu, can you hear me?
I'm hearing you. Go ahead.
Prabhu, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you
when
clearly.
I
Go
act
ahead.
on the moral platform, do I have any sin incurred?
Yes. If you act on the platform of moral code, that is what is called karma kanda.
Okay. Yeah.
There are 4 divisions of activities. At the base level is the position of the karmis, who engages in religious activities for the purpose of Artha Dharma Moksha. On that platform, whatever action brings about a reaction. At the Jnana level, one can act, but there is still reaction. But when you go to the higher transcendental platform, not even on that transcendental platform you are completely free. The only platform where you are free from reaction is when you come to the platform of bhakti. That is why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Bhakta Nishkamya Ata Eva Santa Bhukti Mukti Siddhika Ami Sakale Asanta. That those who are bhuktis, sense enjoyer, muktis, those who are seeking liberation, siddhis, those who want power, or jnanis or yogis, Sakale Asanta, they will never be peaceful
Yeah.
Why? Because they will have to reap the result of the reactions of their activities.
Okay.
Only those who are on the platform of bhakti,
Okay.
only those who are on the platform of bhakti are free from the reactions of activities. And that is why the platform of bhakti is glorified. In chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 47. Lord Krishna mentioned clearly of all yogis, one who is engaging in his devotion is considered to be the superior.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. 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 Well understood. Thank you very much for your answer.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So any other comment or contributions, corrections? I see there are a few people online, just about 6 other persons with me here. And I wouldn't know, Ganga Prashad Prabhu, if you can hear me, any comments? Kavi Kanapu, I can see you here. And Radhakun Devi Dasi, Bhatin Joyce, I think these are the only people online. Hare Krishna, can devotees hear me at all? Is Ganga Prashad Prabhu here? Okay, Radhakun, thank you very much for your
Lordship, your servant is here.
my respectful obeisances.
And I pronounce.
Thank you for being present here.
Yeah. Only compliments. Good class. Very packed. Information packed. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much. So Kavi Kanpur Prabhu, I think Krishna Prabhu gave me the host. Is Kavi Kanpur Prabhu here? Is Grace Kavi Kanpur Prabhu? Okay, if there's no other comments or contributions, I think we will have to end the class here.
We can all unmute and chant Hare Krishna for Prabhu's powerful lecture. Unmute and let us all chant Hare Krishna mantra before Prabhu end the class. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being part of this class. On behalf of the host, I'll be handing the class now. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mr. Ji.
Hare Krishna.